Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about picking a protein powder, things to keep in mind, the different types, what they are, and how to best select one that works for you, or if you even need to pick one or select one in the first place. The ones that we'll be talking about today specifically are the different types of whey protein powder, casein protein powder, and then the common plant-based protein powders. So when it comes to whey protein, which is a protein derived from dairy, there's three classic kinds. You have your whey protein isolate, you have your whey concentrate, and you have your hydrolyzed whey protein. Let's start with a whey isolate. So kind of the classic difference between a whey isolate and the other whey proteins is its lack of carbohydrates. So a whey isolate goes through a cross-flow microfiltration process, which helps remove some of the cholesterol and lactose and carbohydrates to leave you primarily with just the protein. So people who are on a low-carb diet or who are trying to keep their carbs low, an isolate is a common supplement that they will take in order to get the protein but have it without the carbohydrates in addition. Also, because it goes through this processing and it removes some of the lactose, people who have a mild lactose intolerance sometimes can handle a whey isolate compared to a whey concentrate. It's composed of around 90% protein, whereas a whey concentrate is more around an 80% protein, which leads us into a whey concentrate. So whey concentrate is just kind of your classic whey protein. It goes through a little bit of filtration, but not too much so that the proteins stay pure and intact. So it's microfiltered, but it's not heat processed. So we don't get this protein breakdown. And a lot of the times people will say this is kind of the most pure form of whey protein. It hasn't been treated with heat, so it hasn't been broken down. And because it's more intact, it digests easier. So it's around an 80% protein, and the theory kind of behind it is that since it's more intact, it'll digest easier and it's a little bit better for the system. And what you're going to notice is that all of these different types of whey protein, all are going to claim to digest the best because of the way that they're microfiltered or processed or whatever it might be. So that leaves us with hydrolyzed whey, which is kind of the most complicated one. And it goes through this filtration, but it is treated with heat in effort to break down the protein into smaller peptides or amino acid chains. The theory behind this is if the protein's broken down into its smaller components, it'll be able to get into the bloodstream quicker and get to the muscles that it needs to go to quicker and more efficiently. However, research shows that it's not any more beneficial than just a normal whey concentrate. However, anecdotally, a lot of people say that the hydrolyzed whey protein just digests better. It feels better in their gut. It doesn't sit heavy. They don't bloat. But something to keep in mind with the hydrolyzed whey is it's also kind of 90 to 95% protein. Hopefully that kind of clears up the differences between the whey protein powders from the isolate, which is mainly the reason for it is to get rid of the carbohydrates, the whey concentrate, which is just kind of the purest form of a normal whey protein powder, and the hydrolyzed whey, which goes through this breakdown in efforts to try to get the smaller aspects of the protein into your system quicker. The other type of protein that comes from dairy is casein protein. So if you've read up on casein or if you've tried casein, likely you know it's a slow release protein. And basically how that works is when it gets into your stomach, it comes in like a glob or a clot in your stomach and slowly releases the nutrients over time. Something to keep in mind with casein is it's anti-catabolic, meaning it'll help prevent excessive breakdown of proteins. It's not anabolic in nature like the whey protein, meaning it isn't stimulating muscle protein synthesis to rebuild the muscle tissue. So there is a clear difference between the two, and it's something to keep in mind. Also, casein is really efficient in helping promote cellular growth, but it also helps promote cellular growth that we don't want. In other words, cancer cells, specifically in the prostate. So this is where a lot of the arguments come from of we shouldn't have dairy in general, is because of this relationship with casein and cancer cell growth. The research has been a little bit all over with that, but it's getting more and more definitive of this relationship, and in turn, you're seeing less and less casein on the market and less people opting to choose it. Now, if you're lactose intolerant, if you are vegetarian or vegan, and you don't want to do the whey proteins or ones derived from animal products, plant-based protein is kind of the best way to go. A lot of people just in general are switching to plant-based proteins just because, for one, they tend to digest a little bit easier. This is kind of me saying that, not necessarily research. But a lot of people, and kind of anecdotally, are saying that the plant-based ones digest a little bit better and cause less kind of crampy, bloaty kind of thing. And I think a lot of that is a lot of people don't know they're lactose intolerant, but they have a little bit of lactose intolerance. So they've been taking whey for forever and it's been causing kind of gut inflammation and their body hasn't been responding to it well. So then when they switch to a plant-based one, they're like, oh, this is way better, because they're not getting kind of that aggravation in their system due to being partially lactose intolerant. And some common plant-based proteins you're going to see are things like brown rice protein, various types of pea protein, and hemp protein. Those are probably the three most common. There are also things like alfalfa protein, and there's a handful of different kinds, but those are sort of the three most common, plus a blend of those three. When it comes to any protein powder, what you want to see is 6 grams of essential amino acids per 20 grams of total protein. Now, if you're taking an animal-based one, whether it's the whey proteins or something like a beef protein concentrate, likely you're getting this. You don't really have to fret or worry about it too much. The plant-based ones, this is where it gets a little bit trickier, because if you're taking an isolated form, like a just brown rice plant protein, likely it's not going to have those 6 essential amino acids per 20 grams of total protein. So you need to either take a lot more or try to find one of these blends or something that where that is the case, where you're getting that 6 grams of essential amino acids per 20 grams of total protein. And a lot of the vegan blends are really good with that. So if you're going on if you prefer plant-based or that's what you're taking, check the labels and see if that's the case. Hopefully that's starting to narrow down your choices and what you kind of realize, oh, this is what I should be looking for. Let's cover just a few things that are general things to keep in mind. First thing I would always look for is, do they have artificial sweeteners? Things like sucralose or aspartame specifically. If it has something like that, I would opt out of that brand entirely, all of its products, because likely they're using it in everything. And I would try to find a brand that's using something like stevia or isn't sweetened in general. If you don't like the taste of unsweetened supplements, find ways of naturally sweetening it yourself, which will be a lot better than just opting for a product that tastes great but is filled with artificial sweeteners and additives and things like that. If you read the label and there's like a ton of different ingredients and half of it doesn't make any sense, and food coloring and all this kind of stuff, try to avoid that product and that company in general. All of these little things start to come into play if you want to kind of get the best bang for your buck and have the best health in general, of knowing where is it coming from, where are they sourcing this product from. A lot of places aren't going to list where it's coming from. That's why it's kind of just labeled as like grass-fed or all natural or organic or whatever it might be, or GMO free and all these sorts of things. And that's when you can start to look at if they're getting third parties to check their products and see if it's good. Do you need a protein powder? Do you need something post-workout? If you're getting adequate amount of protein, which is around 1.6 grams per kilogram up to 1 gram per pound of body weight throughout your day, in let's say 3 to 6 meals spread out throughout your day, you're probably good. Resistance training makes the muscle tissue kind of hypersensitive to protein, but that window is quite a bit longer than we sort of previously thought, up to even 24 hours. So if you're every day you're getting in that adequate amount of protein nice and spread out, you're probably good. One case where this is a little bit different is if you get up and you train in a fasted state, so you don't eat anything, you get up, you do your workout, then you want to be a little bit more careful and you want to try to get in some protein kind of post-workout sooner rather than later. And now again, for kind of the vegan or plant-based people out there, you want to make sure that you have adequate amount of valine, because that's kind of a trigger for muscle protein synthesis and all of these other things. So that's when kind of the convenience of having a supplement can come into play, but also for in kind of the vegan realm of things, making sure that you have the adequate quantity, keyword quantity, of those essential amino acids post-workout and just in general at some point in time. Hopefully this was helpful. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me. Don't forget to subscribe, to like, and to let me know what your thoughts are on this and if this is helpful for you. Until next time, see ya.